Aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my mini Bishop G5 Najdorf series. In this video, we're going to be looking at the ninth move, Bishop takes f6 for white. So the point being of this Bishop takes f6 is white, in a certain sense, they want to bail out with this pawn, with this incredibly good pawn sacrifice line with h6 g5, which we are gonna see in the next video. And it has also, from a philosophical point of view, an effect, like for the, if of course naturally we're gonna recapture with the knight, we don't want to ruin our pawn structure, and white has some sort of a way of dictating the rest of the game based on the next move. So white has several options, and we're gonna go look at them one by one. So it is white to move, and the most tempting move is long castles, which is a mistake because of bishop g4. We win in exchange, even though the game is not over, but we have a significantly decisive advantage, and it is a matter of technique, as they say, to convert it. So long castles emulated. Let's first look at the prophylactic, seemingly h3 move. So h3 looks kind of plausible. It stops bishop g4, and now they can castle long, and even further they can advance, white can advance the pawns with g4, g5, h4, you know, just to launch a powerful kingside attack. On the other hand, this move looks a little bit slow, because now black has two ways to continue their development. One of them is e5, which is very natural. We want to simply put a pawn in the center, challenge this e4 f4 pawn, and also attacks the knight. So after e5 you can take, but it is like you know, we have a pawn on e4, white has a pawn on e4, we will have a pawn on e5, which will somehow neutralize, and we will have a comfortable position. So white generally retreats with the knight to b3, and we take the pawn, because why not? We wanna in the future we want to play bishop e6, but if we don't take, then white has this f5 move, which is a little bit annoying. So we simply get rid of that option, and white can immediately grab that pawn, or they can castle. That pawn is not going anywhere. g5 looks a little bit weakening, and white can simply challenge us with like g3, h4 moves in the future. So we complete our development with bishop e7, and white captures the pawn on f4, because why not? And now simply bishop e6, I don't know, white can play bishop d3, bring the rooks to the open file, and we will have a comfortable position. Like, I don't know, bishop d3, we can castle short, or maybe even long, depends on your taste. We can also play this solid move e6, but you know, if like our further advanced pawn is on the 6th rank, and this requires some patience, and also a little bit of knowledge, let's say. So we want to get our counterplay going with playing b5 move, and white now has e5 and f5 moves. You know, it gives white these options, because we didn't play e5, and after the e5 our rook is under attack. We can play bishop b7, and the game might continue with like something like queen e3, etc, etc. And you know, white has a little bit of edge, let's put it that way. If they push f5, you know, just to get the d5 square, we can kick that knight away. So knight I think the most reasonable square for the knight is b3. It stays close to the center. Knight on e2 blocks the bishop. Maybe if the queen moves, they can have knight a5 ideas targeting the bishop on b7. But of course we reinforce our control to the d5 square with bishop b7. And now white can simply continue their development. They will bring the rook to the center, and we also do the same. But white now has this option of going g4 and even maybe h4 g5. We have to now react with b4, and you know, if like knight goes to e2, a4, d5, three options. I'm not gonna get into those details, but knight e2 allows us typical d5 break, which every knight of plays enjoys when it is a well-timed d5 break. Knight a4 also allows e4, but simply they wanna bail out with knight d5. Now we can take. I mean, this position looks a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know what white should play. I don't want to castle short and running into these pawn storms. Rook's coming here. Bishop is nicely placed on d3, eyeing that b1 h7 diagonal. So having said this, I highly recommend this simple e5 move after h3. Now let's look at other options. So white has this lovely move, because I also switched from explore e1 d4 to e4 territory, and queen on g3 looks such a lovely queen against various type of Sicilians, especially some, I don't know, Taimano for instance, where you can play bishop e3 after queen f3, queen g3, trying to exchange the queen, or even some can Sicilians where they offer a queen exchange and it is considered to be slightly good for white. But we're not going to go into details. And so the point being of this queen on g3 is it supports e5, and it also puts some pressure on the g7 pawn, you know. So looks like a lovely square for the queen. However, we have this nasty, not that, okay, nasty is maybe a strong word, but this lovely looking g5 move. So what is the point of g5? Well, we are sacrificing a pawn. So let's say white is a greedy guy and loves pawn hunting. You know, they take the pawn and we put the best sniper in the planet Earth to h6, and look at this bishop not allowing white to long castles. Let's say white retreats the queen, and we can complete our development with bishop d7 or bishop e6, but you know, the knight is there, so bishop is not available. So let's ask this knight where to go, because you can't castle long. So they may, I think knight b3 looks very logical, and now we can bishop d7 or bishop e6. There is no knight on d4, looks more active. Now maybe we can slide the rook to c8. We don't need to rush with castling, because you know, our king is pretty safe in on e8. There are no attacking pieces around my king, as you can see. So this g5 is a nice move to just. By the way, I forgot to mention the most significant point. We are fighting for e5 square. If white grabs the pawn, we will get our e5 square. Yeah, let's say they don't wanna take that, and they can castle. We can play, I don't know, g4, even maybe bishop g7, and we will harmoniously finish our development. Okay, before jumping to the by far the most popular move, and I think maybe objectively is too strong, but f5 move, let's look at this knight d5 move. So white put a knight on d5, which is in most of the Sicilians a lovely square for the knight. It's controlling so many squares, but however, this is a little bit premature, because you know, when white puts a knight on d5, especially in some bishop e3 lines, which I will planning to discuss in the next mini-series. This is a little bit premature because of the fact that there are like no rook on e1 and my king looks pretty safe. You know, when white puts a knight on d5, if it take, it will open up some files. You know, there will be some bishop's pieces around the king, but this is not the case, so we can take. However, we have a single problem to solve, which is how to develop this bishop, because we don't want to play e6, weakening in our light squares. And the most natural move looks like g6, bishop g7. All right, and we will play bishop d7. I don't know, rook c8. We will try to get a comfortable position, playable position. But this g6 move has a little downside, which allows f5. And what is the point of f5? Well, we don't want to take and damage our structure, and this queen will be lovely placed on f5. It will be hard to kick that queen away. So we simply ignore this move with playing bishop g7, and we are letting white to take that pawn. Some of you, I know, have already pre-moved f takes g6, but short castling is way more active. Because if white takes, we are sacking another pawn, we are attacking the queen, which is like a tempo move, you know? And queen has to move, and to my eyes, like moving the queen somewhere is either a great move or a bad move, so you gotta pick it up, you gotta choose it wisely. You don't wanna bring the queen to somewhere over queenside, which is far away from our king. Queen e4, you know, queen e2 blocks the bishop. Queen e4 looks lovely. It keeps an eye on g6 and e6 squares. However, now we have this pretty strong move, queen b6, very accurate move. The point being is we are attacking the knight, right? And if white castles, we have this double exclamation mark move, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, maybe not double, a single exclamation mark. And the move is bishop f5. We are temporarily sacking the bishop, but look at this dragonish bishop sitting on g7. So white has to take, you know, because otherwise we will play like something like rook c8 and GG, why not? They take, and now queen b2 looks tempting, but it's like an animalistic check, as I say. Actually, no one says it. It's like, ooh, check, bro. No, queen takes, king runs, and we get nothing. But we have this bishop takes b2 move, and this is GG. So king has to go here, and we have this slowly queen f2 check. It attacks the knight as well, and we will regain our piece back with queen takes f5, queen takes, takes, and now you can play c4 to guard if you're greedy, to guard the pawn, or like rook b1 is also interesting, because after c4 we have this typical b5 break, undermining that pawn chain if take shenanigans. So rook b1, attacking the bishop, sacking that pawn, but after we move the bishop, white will grab that b7 pawn. By the way, you simply take the rook, and now king doesn't want to move to a dark square, so bishop blocks, very natural. We drop the bishop back, also protecting the e7 pawn, and white captures on b7. We will get a pretty symmetrical, equalish position, and both sides have 4 pawns, and you know, better player wins, or the game ends in a draw. So after knight takes d5, we have discussed g6, but there's this very counterintuitive stockfish idea, which is to go g5 instead of g6. Well, what is the point of g5? Well, we just looked at what happens after white pushes f5, and in this case this is not an option. You know, after f5 we will simply play bishop g7, short castle, we will have a Gucci Bonchichi position, and if they take, we will simply recapture the pawn, bishop g7, bishop d7. They will decide where to put the king. I know it might look a little bit dangerous, because what is our king doing on e8, but it is not the case. We might have some g4 options available. So let's say I don't know, white stops that g4 plan. We can simply play bishop d7. We don't want to rush with b5 animalistic non-existent counterplay on the queen side, because it might weaken some c6 square, and now our king might be a little bit exposed. And I don't know, white can play bishop e2. Let's make this useful king b1 move. Now we can simply long castle, and we can you know, the position, we have the bishop there. Our king is pretty safe, we can, I think, say, you know, and we get a game in. Alright, so this was the knight d5 move, and now we are going into the main move, which is f5. So what is the point of f5? It stops black to go e5. It doesn't allow bishop g4 Pinowski, and you know, it weakens the e5 square, and you know, the whole point of this knight b2 d7 queen c7 a6 g5 line is to get our e5 square, and we did it without sacrificing a pawn. On the other hand, we will have some difficult times to develop our remaining pieces sitting on the first rank. So what to play? Guys, I think I made this mistake multiple times in faster time control games, with pushing immediately g5, which is a mistake. We should first start with queen c5. Do not forget, in this whole series, I don't want you to memorize anything, you know, but please do not forget this queen c7, queen c5, because otherwise this a6 line might look really horrendous. So we start with queen c5. It is a tempo attacking the knight, and white makes also a multi-purpose move with long castling, defending the knight, putting king into safety. And after this, we have this fantastic counter-intuitive g5 move, which is the main move in this position. So what is the point of g5? Well, now white has some options, you know, like white sees, if I take, they will have bishop g4, Pinowski once again, but this is not as bad as it looks like for white. So the most popular move in this position is actually f takes g6. We're gonna discuss other moves as well, but let's first look at f takes g6. This might get a little bit sharp and concrete, and after we play bishop g4, they can take and then play queen d3 to guard the knight on d4, and now we will win an exchange. Now white can recapture with queen king knight, but I don't know, most people have taken with the knight. I assume it is like the way to go, and I think both three of them are playable. But let's take the knight, take with the knight. This is like a sample, a little bit computerish line, which is not gonna happen, but I just wanted to show how the game might develop. So we are up on exchange, but our king is pretty exposed. Now we want to develop this bishop to g7. This is a beautiful diagonal, and now queen b3 check looks very tempting because it attacks the pawn. However, if you take the pawn, you know, we might get some serious initiative. So we block this check with the d5 move, and if they take, we will open up the scope for the bishop. So white plays knight f5. What is the point of knight f5? White is going for the bishop. We capture the pawn, because why not? I mean, they can capture the bishop, but this comes also with another tempo because the pawn is pinned. Now we simply go back, knight f6. And white has several different options, like they can bring the rook to the semi-open file, x-raying the king. Now we simply start with our counterplay with b4, b5, knight h4. The point being is they want to play some bishop g6 shenanigans. We simply ignore. I don't know. These things are not gonna happen realistically, I would say. Now we don't. I mean, wherever we go, there will be some X-rays, but king g8 looks more natural, you know, because this pawn is guarded by the knight and by the rook. And after king g8, white has some initiative, but we can always bail out with some queen c4 move, you know, and like attacking the rook, the knight. So yeah, that was a sample line after f takes g6, ladies and gentlemen, which is by far the most popular move. But let's look at other moves. I want to show quite a stunning, interesting move. But before we jump in, let's say white played g4, and we black has this. I mean, it has a nice pawn chain. I won't deny it. We simply play h5. What is the point of h5? Well, if we want to activate these pieces, that we don't want them to stay on the king side like forever. And well, white can take, but they can also defend. Now we want to complete our development. The game might continue with some like natural rook c8 moves. We don't worry about our king yet. Neither white does worry. And we can always like a bailout option with rook can't take, because rook guards the knight, and you know, bishop g7. Najdorf fanciness everywhere, so we love to see it. But the move that I want to mention, which is I think objectively a dubious move, but it is a fantastic gambling move, so I would love to recommend for white players. If you're enjoying these positions from white side. e5 pawn sacrifice. So what is the point of this sacrifice? Well, they're banking on the fact that if you take with the pawn, it is a blunder. So we have to take with the queen. But if you take with the pawn, let's see the point of the sacrifice. White has this cold-blooded knight b5. So if you look at this position, it's hard to understand what is the point of knight b5. Well, that knight is poisoned. Okay, we can see that, you know. I mean, just to show some stunning lines. Well, king can't move after bishop b5 check. However, we block. Even white can take with the rook and then take. We would lose the rook and as well as the game, because our king is a boss. GG, why not? So that knight is poisoned. I started thinking, okay, whatever, I play bishop g7. I'm gonna ignore like c7 square is defended, but this board vision is the point of the next move from white is amazing. It is to play knight a4. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Now our queen is trapped in the center of the board, so we can't do that, ladies and gentlemen. But we have this resource with e4. However, white has still some play with bishop g7. White plays rook d5. And what is the point of rook d5? So our queen has not so many squares to go. I mean, it looked to me like queen c6 or something like queen b6. Like, I think they are the only moves. Well, let's first look at queen c6. Oh, it's stunning. White has this, of course, anyone can see it. this check on d5, d6. Now we have to move king f8, and now this double exclamation mark move, knight takes f7. So we take what to do, and no immediate blowout, but bishop c4. And I think, I don't remember the evaluation. I don't want to turn it on, then it might be glitching, but I think it's like +5, 6, something like that. GG, why not? So if you go to queen b6, still this check. And now this option is not available because we have some queen takes b2 or bishop takes b2 shenanigans. But white simply goes back and says, play a move, bud. And it is hard to play, you know. White has all the fun in the position, which we don't want to see. So we simply take with the queen. And it doesn't ruin our pawn structure, right? But now white goes into some positional slow approach, which is quite fascinating to my eyes. You know, I don't know, they can play, I think, something like g3. Bishop g2. Okay, I'm making some random moves. And after rook h2, we will lose this pawn, and white has sacrificed the pawn, but it will regain the pawn back, and I like white's position, right? So this is quite a stunning move, this e5 move. I really like it. All right, we have discussed I think all of the ideas after knight f6, f5, h3, queen g3, knight d5. So thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.